Mr. Kane is with us, Citizen Kane. My man, it still has not set in, Mr. Kane. We won the White House. Our movement did it. Mr. Kane, welcome back as always.
Yeah, I was just thinking to myself, Charlie, whether or not we had spoken since the election these days, but I thought we actually have. These days run together, and now, there's no time to relax, right? You celebrate for maybe 15 minutes, and then you make plans to start getting Trump's agenda through the House and Senate.
Yeah, so Kane, let's focus on that. I'm hanging around here in Palm Beach, doing everything I can, trying to give input, and I'm just thrilled by the picks that the president is making. He deserves credit, and credit alone. Bobby Kennedy, Tulsi Gabbard, Matt Gaetz, and Pete Hegseth, and other ones too. I actually like the Marco pick. I like Marco a lot. He's probably a little too hawkish for my taste on certain things, but Marco's actually been Andrew would agree, he's been a super gentleman to us, and he's a great man. And so I think that's great. I like Elise Stefanik. She's a superstar. I haven't found one that I don't like, to be honest. So Kane, however, let's go through this. There's another election that is looming, and it's time for us to, let the grassroots celebrate. By the way, guys, I hope the champagne is flowing. I hope you guys just go as crazy, because you deserve it. I'm not even going to tell you got to go to work now. I never say that. Andrew will tell you. Yeah, but I'm not doing that. I'm working. Work is cathartic for me. However, you guys need to go just chill out. Yeah, Andrew can have his 100-year bottle of wine. However, I will say, guys, in mid-January, it'll be battle stations again. Yeah. And mid-January is because of a confirmation fight. The Republican senators are going to try to quietly kill Trump's cabinet. Some of them, not all of them. I'm talking about 5 or 6 old bulls, specifically from states like, and it is not only these states, Idaho, South Dakota, Kansas, Arkansas, Mississippi. Kane, can you comment on that, please, and the importance of us getting Trump his cabinet?
Yeah, I like what you said. I mean, my life, Charlie. I'm sitting in an office. I've got a TV on, watching monitors all day. And so first, when the Pete Hegseth name came up, actually, I'll jump back to Rubio first. My thoughts are essentially the same as yours on Rubio. I was not upset by the pick. I know he's a little bit hawkish, perhaps for our taste. But look, what you want more than anything in Secretary of State is loyalty, someone who's going to implement the president's foreign policy and not implement a version of the president's foreign policy that we might have seen in previous Secretary of States. So I thought it was a fantastic pick. Then you jump to Hegseth, which I was jumping out of my chair. I love the guy. I don't know him. You know him. You know these people. I don't, but I was jumping out of my chair. And then when we got to Matt Gaetz, I don't even have words to describe that. And then you had that great video of people haven't seen it, of Matt doing a little chauffeur work for you in Palm Beach. And that was
just for the record, it is a funny story. Matt and I were hanging out over the weekend before, and I don't want to say too much, but I was as surprised as anybody when Matt got announced. And we were just hanging out, and I just did a TikTok video. Little I know, I was being driven around by the next attorney general.
Which is hilarious. I did not know. I think that's interesting for people to know that caught you off guard. I figured you guys had 30 minutes, an hour advance warning or something, but it was a great clip. And so we had that, right? And Matt Gaetz, I have to keep the enemy on television at all times. So I've had MSNBC on mute for 7 days, basically straight. And they did not take Matt Gaetz off the Chiron for 30 hours. He was the only thing on the Chiron until Robert Kennedy. So we sort of end up there. These picks keep eclipsing themselves. It's just astonishing. I'm a huge fan of Kennedy, right? You and I, we've been around politics for a while. We know there's no perfect nominee. We know that. But I've always liked Kennedy. I even liked him as a potential before J.D. Vance came on the scene. I even saw him as a potential running mate. I think that's how much power he has to bring Democrats and bring independents. So I love the candidates. Now let's talk about those those blood red states that aren't really helping us. I think that's going to have to be part of our focus. If there are problems with Kennedy getting through, with with Hegseth getting through, with Matt Gaetz getting through. We're going to have to use all the pressure of the Charlie Kirk show and CFP Nation to let these senators that we them. That's,
yes.
What are your thoughts on that? Is that going to be the strategy?
No, I totally agree. Again, I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves here. We're going to give everyone an opportunity in the Senate to do the Senate thing. Advise and consent. Listen, give Matt Gaetz the toughest questions. Give Tulsi Gabbard the toughest question. No one here is advocating for kid gloves. You would agree, right? Kane, if these nominees want to be a cabinet secretary, you have to be able to go through the grilling. We do not want any special treatment. However, once that is exhausted and there are no major red flags, and you're saying, oh, I won't vote for him, well, then we're going to have a problem, especially if you're from a state like Idaho, South Dakota, Kansas, Arkansas, Mississippi. And let me just give you, I read this off yesterday, okay? There were lots of these people. Can you resend the Garland list? A lot of these people from these blood red states, Mr. Kane, that voted for Merrick Garland. And it is going to be a very, very difficult messaging campaign. If you are the senior senator from Idaho, to explain to your constituents, let me see, how did Idaho? Okay. Oh, they both voted no. Okay. Crapo voted no, and the other one was present. Okay. So let's take another one. Shelley Moore Capito from a super red state of West Virginia. Okay. She voted here. She voted yes for Garland. Let's take that one. She's in leadership now. Kane, it will be very difficult for Shelley Moore Capito to say that, okay, I voted for Merrick Garland, but I'm not going to vote for Matt Gaetz. Your thoughts, Mr. Kane?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting approach to take. You talked about just giving them before we get to this stage, giving each of his nominees a fair shake in the Senate in the confirmation process. What else could Matt Gaetz ask for? The guy dominates all forms of debate. I look forward to that. Give him the toughest questions you can. Let him answer for himself. And look, before getting to that angle on Capito, we both know that I heard someone speaking on Laura Ingraham last night. They were talking about the first recess generally comes right before President's Day. So that's in February. So that would be the first opportunity for Trump to have to do this. And then in that case, if this doesn't work, Gaetz would be able to stay on before having to sort of face any sort of formal confirmation all the way to the end of 2025. You probably know the reasons why he would have to then face that formal confirmation that the appointment will be last. Fantastic. What juxtaposition can you say? You voted yes for Merrick Garland, who you knew or you had a very good idea was going to end up criminally charging the former president of the United States, but you're not willing to listen to Matt Gaetz, or you're not willing to vote for Matt Gaetz. I think that strategy is a good one to start out with. It's sort of fun to game plan this stuff. We've got a couple of months ahead of time, but I hope that there's sort of a groundswell and the base continue. I'm going to be pushing that the base continues to call these senators who are already speaking out publicly and saying they may be in opposition to certain of these candidates. We're going to direct the base at CFP to get on the phone and not stop ringing these folks until they understand that this is Trump's agenda. This is part of the mandate. You give the president the benefit of the doubt. You give him the candidates, the nominees that he asked for, unless there's something wholly egregious. And there is nothing like that so far with any of these candidates.
Yeah, and so, look, understand, they have a majority because of Trump, not because of them. And Mr. Kane, I could prove this to you. How did their Senate candidates do in comparison to Trump? There was not a single Senate candidate in any of the 7 battlegrounds that exceeded Trump. In fact, they all lagged Trump, and many of them were so far behind Trump that they were not successful. Hovde, Rogers, Lake, and Brown.
Yes.
And obviously there were a lot of problems with the Lake and the Brown race with election integrity and Hovde. Point being is that these guys do not have a majority because of people wanted Senate Republicans. It's because of the Trump movement and the Trump agenda. And what drives me nuts, Mr. Kane, and I will be telling this story very loud, and there's no days off here. This is warfare, is that these guys have contempt sometimes for the Trump voter and yet they're in leadership because of the Trump voter. Mr. Kane, minute and a half.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it. You know, who am I thinking of? The People's Pundit, Rich Barris, is out there. I've got a headline, 2 headlines still in the stack saying, listen up, Republicans, loud and clear. You were not elected again. Donald Trump was elected again. The numbers show these are Trump voters. I don't know what the average is. I'm going to just call it +5. I think Trump did on average about 5 points better than the senators in the red states. He still brought them along. He brought Bernie Moreno in Ohio, and he brought other senators along, but they trailed him, and it was only because of his coattails. There's a special class. I want to say it's at least 10 million. It might even be 15 million voters that only vote for Trump. He is the one that drives these people to the polls. And I don't want to actually, that's a discussion we need to have for another time, is how we make sure that when Trump is no longer on the ticket in 2028, we can still sort of get this drive. But these senators, any of them wishy-washy, wondering about approving his nominees, remember what Charlie just said and what Rich Barris has said. These are Trump voters. These are not Republican voters, and you best not forget it.